The next thing we are going to focus on is the questions that someone had over here. Did someone have a question? Yes.
On those push scissors, do you know, has anybody ever tried putting them like in a foam block or in one of the blocks like you would put plants, plant arrangements? Would those work?
That's a good idea. What you have here now is you have someone who's thinking outside the box. That's what we want our teachers to do, is figure out a way to problem solve and troubleshoot. And that's a good way to look at it. How about you guys here? Teresa, Kyle, you guys have any questions? Paul?
I was actually thinking about
Marshall,
the student
yes.
that you had, Katie.
Yes.
I was wondering the things that you implemented as far as the strategies. Are some of those strategies things that you can kind of decrease as the school year goes along? I know some of those strategies we'll probably have to maintain
Yes.
throughout the school year, but are there any that...
When a strategy is not needed, we took it away, and immediately we started to notice that Katie's independence, that she doesn't need a prompt all the time. She would tell us, you don't have to tell me to do that anymore because I know what to do. Stop bugging me, basically, Lisa. So eventually at some point, yes, we had to back off because it becomes enabling, and that's a good point, Marshall. Thank you for asking that question. Any other questions back there, ladies? No questions? Okay. Any other questions up front? Teresa, you have a question? Kyle, anything that you'd like to know? Yes.
Okay, with Katie's work buddy, what would be involved with that, bringing another student in to work with her as far as the commitment from the other student as well as incorporating the class?
Okay. With Katie's work buddy, by the way, Katie's work buddy is Josh. Josh is great guy, very helpful, gifted. And what we had to do with Josh is we had to sit down with him one-on-one, the three of us, during our consultation, and let Josh know exactly what Katie can do and what Katie cannot do. And we would actually coach Josh into prompting Josh and training him to be a peer mediator or peer helper to Katie, telling me exactly, Josh, when you see Katie struggling with math, would you take 20 seconds of your time to just tell her that that answer is incorrect? Katie, would you want to check that again? How much of time does that take? A couple of seconds. And that's what Josh did. And we would tell Josh, don't enable, just bring attention to it and say you might want to recheck that. And that's what Josh did. He was sort of Katie's guide by the side. But the other side flip side of that is, what about Josh's time, his time on work? But Josh was doing such a great job with all the enrichment activities that he was working on. He found, he became Katie's best buddy eventually, and it was a great relationship. So the answer to the question is, you have to train your peers to be able to do this. You just don't say you two get together and help each other out. No, you have to do that when? In that before stage. Remember the before stage, stage number 1? That's when we did all that prep work. Did we have to do it? Did we have to monitor that? Yes, all the time. Teaching Josh other strategies to work with Katie. Okay? And Josh really enjoyed it, but it did not distract him from his work. Good question. Yes?
Okay, you were talking about, you were spending a half hour with Katie doing preview and review type work. What was she missing during that half hour?
Oh, okay. Good question. Whenever we were doing previewing and reviewing, Katie, we would take some of her class time, for example, in math. So half of her class time she would spend it with us and the other half in the regulated classroom. So we worked that into her schedule, basically. Okay? Thank you. I'm going to end with this. It's a poem by a good friend, Haim Gino, and the poem goes, it's between a teacher and a child is the heading. I've come to a frightening conclusion. I am the decisive element in the classroom. It is my personal approach that creates the climate. It is my daily mood that makes the weather. As a teacher, I possess tremendous power to make a child's life miserable or joyous. I can be a tool of torture or an instrument of inspiration. I can humiliate or humor, hurt or heal. In all situations, it is my response that decides whether a crisis will be escalated or de-escalated and a child humanized or dehumanized. Thank you. Keep in touch.
Thank you, Dr. Zaf Khan, and thanks also to the MTSU students who joined us in the studio. I'd like to remind our site facilitators to please have today's participants complete session evaluation forms. We encourage our webcasting and cable viewers to complete a form online at www.mtsu.edu/ITSC. You may also download a copy of the PowerPoint slides and handouts that went with today's program by visiting our website. Before we sign off, I'd like to thank our technical crew and support staff. I'd particularly like to thank the Tennessee Electronic Learning Center for sponsoring today's program. As always, I'd like to thank our site facilitators, but most of all, I'd like to thank the teachers who took time out of their busy schedule to join us for today's program. Thank you.
Thank you for joining us. If you'd like to view this information again, please visit the Electronic Learning Center at tnelc.org. The Tennessee Department of Education will provide additional programming on topics relevant to students, teachers, and parents. This programming is provided by No Child Left Behind, Title II, Part A funds.